There's a lot of information about planning the perfect vacation floating around the internet. There are so many tips and tricks and must-dos and how-tos. I mean, I would know. I'm one of those people who shares that information. But I think that sometimes it's a bit overcomplicated, and especially if you've never done a Disney vacation before, there's a chance that you're hearing all of the noise and it's getting you off course. You're not thinking about the right things, and that ultimately just puts you off target. You can't figure out the things you want to figure out because there's so much going on in your head and you're trying to think of all these things. So today I want to talk about something that, quite frankly, I think is the only thing you really need to focus a lot of attention on when it comes to planning a Disney vacation, and that is timing. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Sorry I kind of got ahead of myself there for a minute, but this is another vacation planning discussion where we talk about the nitty-gritty and all the things that sometimes get overlooked when people discuss planning a Disney vacation. Yeah, timing. It's one of those things that I don't think it really gets overlooked as much as it's overshadowed by so many other things. And while you will hear people talk about timing, I think that more often than not, they're focused on the wrong thing and they're not giving you the information that I think you need. It's much simpler than you probably realize. So yeah, let's get into it today. Now, for the most part, when people think about timing for a Disney vacation, the first thing that they ask about, the first thing that comes to mind is, when should I visit Walt Disney World? And quite frankly, it's a good question. It's a good thing to ask, but is it the right question? Now, this is something that we've talked about before in previous discussions about this very topic, but I think it's worth discussing again, mainly because, I think a lot of people focus so much energy on trying to figure out when the best time to visit is, but is that really worth the time and energy, especially if you can't make your schedule accommodate those dates? And let's be real, so many families can't. If you've got kids, you've got a job, you've got this long list of things that you have to take into consideration when planning your Disney vacation or planning any time off for that matter. You have to wonder whether or not it's actually useful to fixate on those very specific dates. I argue that it's not. Now, this isn't to say that knowing these dates isn't useful information for some people. It absolutely can be, especially those who have the wiggle room or the flexibility. But it can also be useful for those who just want to prepare for the crowds that they might encounter when they get here. So I'm not saying completely disregard the fact that there are times a year that are busy. I'm just saying, how much energy do you really want to focus on that? Now, every time we have this conversation, someone always says, well, look, Kat, I know that not everyone can adjust their vacation around the ideal times to visit Walt Disney World, but what are some of the ideal times to visit? When should I visit? But this can be a kind of tricky question to answer too, for a few different reasons. I'll get to that here in a second. But I think it's more appropriate to answer the question, when is it most crowded, as opposed to when the best times to visit are. So we know that it's most crowded during major holidays, because that's when people have time off, and during school breaks. Pretty easy. Try and avoid those times. Not always easy for everyone to do, but still. It can also be really crowded during major events like Run Disney events and cheer competitions. All of that information will be available online, but it's not always posted early enough for you to avoid. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. So just keep that in mind, but you can find that information out there, and if you have the wiggle room and the flexibility, you can avoid those dates. There are also a long list of dates peppered throughout the year when it might not necessarily be the most convenient to visit specific parks. For example, like opening day of a festival here at Epcot tends to be a bit more crowded, and you might not want to visit during opening day. Of course, that's aside from major holidays like Easter. They have the Easter parade over at Magic Kingdom. You might not want to visit on that day if you want to avoid crowds. But again, major holidays, not really a good time to visit, but sometimes unavoidable. You see what I'm saying? But it gets kind of tricky when we start to talk about the best times to visit Walt Disney World, like what dates are crowds known to be lower and it's known to be less busy. People seem to always want to provide a list of dates and tell you that you should shoot for those dates, but here's the thing. Those aren't always accurate. And that's never been more true than it has been in the past few years. Look, I know everyone is so tired of hearing the same old story of how things changed in 2020, but in this case, it's true and it's unavoidable. Prior to 2020, we had years and years of data and habits of travelers telling us what to expect. That all got turned on its head in 2020, and while things have kind of balanced out a little bit, they've also very much not balanced out, and so Habits have changed, people have changed, and we haven't quite found a rhythm yet. Now, some people will say that they have found that rhythm and they'll give you a set of dates. It's nice to post that on social media and share that bit of information. But if you ask people who are here, you know, those boots on the ground, we're here in the parks during those times of year that are supposed to be low times, will tell you that it's not quite accurate. And this has been true even just recently throughout February. People are like, where was that low season that everyone was saying we would have? It wasn't here. And that's because we haven't quite found that new rhythm yet. So you have to take the dates that people are saying are good times to visit with a grain of salt. That may have been true at one time, but it takes more than 1 year or 1 week, if we're being real, to establish a pattern. We have to see that pattern happen again and again, and there just hasn't been enough time to do that. Now, I say all of this because I think it's better to focus our energy on those well-established busy times and avoiding those if we can manage it, as opposed to trying to squeeze our vacation into a, yeah, this will be a great time to visit time frame, because we just don't know that those dates won't be busy. And honestly, it's been that way for the past couple of years. Now, I know what you might be thinking, because I can sense the disappointment. I know that you wanted to get a very specific answer. You wanted me to tell you like a set of dates where if you just visit during that time, you'll be good to go. You won't have any crowds. You'll be like, oh my goodness, I love the way you visit the parks and you never have anyone around you. How could I pull that off for me and my family? I actually hear people say that all the time. How did you manage going to Epcot when it was so empty? Timing. So this goes back to what I was saying earlier. Timing is the answer, but it's not necessarily the type of timing that you're focusing your energy on. You're thinking of the wrong when. You're thinking about the time of year and not the time of day. And that, my friends, is the key. Visiting during the right time of day. Now, if you're a regular here on the channel, you've probably heard me talk about rope drop, and I want to focus some energy on this today, but it's not the only way to use timing to your advantage here at Walt Disney World. Though I do think rope drop is incredibly effective, which is why I mention it all the time. I might be getting a little ahead of myself though, so let me backtrack for a second. If you're not familiar with the term rope drop, it simply means arriving at the park prior to it opening. In other words, getting here early. Now, there is a whole series of videos we're doing here on the channel where we talk about rope drop. We've already talked about Magic Kingdom because it is different at all 4 theme parks. So I'm giving you a sense of what to expect everywhere. But no matter where you go here at Walt Disney World or pretty much anywhere else, arriving early can be a huge advantage because you're getting ahead of the crowds and you can get a lot done if you arrive early. In fact, you might even be surprised how much you can accomplish. I know some people argue that it's not necessarily the best way to go, but I will die on that hill. Rope drop is fantastic. And you want to know why? Like, if I can just do a little bit of an aside here and share some of my personal opinions with you. I mean, all of these are my personal opinions, but I think it's because there are so many people who they just have a very specific vision of what vacation is, and for them it's staying in bed and waking up late and just casually going throughout their day, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that if that's your idea of a great vacation, but that's not going to get you limited crowds. So you have to decide what you want to do. Sleep in late, like everyone else, be in the crowds, or you can get up early, avoid some of those crowds, take a nap midday. Now me, I'm team arrive early. Get here before the park opens, get into the park when there's minimal crowds, leave midday during the hottest and most crowded part of the day, come back at night and enjoy that, close out the park at the end of the day. And that actually speaks to the second part of this. You know how I said it's not just about rope drop, there are other ways to use timing to your advantage? Well, one of those ways is to also be at the parks late. That's why I often say arrive early, stay late. I'm not saying be there all day. Leave during the middle part of the day. It's the hottest time of the day, it's the most crowded time of the day, and the lines are the longest in the middle of the day. So I beg the question, why be here? Why be in a situation you don't want to be in? Take off, take advantage of time in the pool at your resort. Go do a table service dining reservation. These are all really great ways to make the most of your time here without being here during the lousiest time. And you know what? I talk a lot about different pieces of advice, different things that I think that you should do during your Disney vacations, things that I think will help you. This piece of advice this way of doing a Disney day, arriving early, leaving around lunch, coming back just before dinner, and enjoying the park until it closes, this is the piece of advice I am most confident in. Because not only do I do that now, all the time, being someone who lives here, but when I vacationed here, that's exactly how I did my Disney days. And I never ever left a Disney vacation feeling overstressed or like I didn't accomplish something, because I had the time to do it during the day or in the evening, and I had time to decompress and relax midday. So it's a piece of advice I wish you would try, even if only for one day. I know that that's a lot to ask, but it really will change the entire way that you vacation, and I think that it's worth giving a go. And you know, it's so interesting because if you circle back to the beginning part of our conversation where we were talking about how, you know, you can't always change the time of year that you visit. Sometimes you just have to visit when you visit. Using a technique like we just talked about, that technique being changing the time of day that you visit, can help you manage those crowds during really busy times of year. And I mean during the busiest times of year. Now, it's not going to have you in an empty park if you rope drop or if you stay late, but it can definitely help alleviate a little bit of that stress, a little bit of the crowds, and it will help you have a better trip. Which I say as someone who, again, does this all the time, even during those really crazy times of year. And you want to know why this particular piece of advice works so well? Is because so few people take it. Now, I'm not saying that no one goes this route. There are definitely people who do, but there are a lot of people who are very, very stubborn when it comes to changing their vacation habits and their time off. I totally understand that, but I mention it because if you're someone who's willing to change your habits, this could work to your advantage. Now, again, everyone vacations differently. Of course, we got some construction happening, so you're just gonna have to bear with me, but everyone vacations differently and everyone has different wants and needs. I say this all the time, and this is no exception, but I do want to just throw this out there as an option, especially for those of you who don't have that wiggle room. Like I said, not everyone will be able to change their vacation to a time when it's supposed to be the best time to visit, and I think that that's why we need to move away from focusing so heavily on dates and focusing a little bit more on technique. So that's something that I want to do here, especially as we continue to have these vacation planning discussions. I want to help you figure out what is going to work best and what isn't going to be the best plan. I also want to help you figure out how to build an itinerary. That's something that we're going to talk about here in the future. And I know that some of you are probably going to be a little scared when you hear me say that, because you don't want to be stuck to a very specific schedule. It's not like that at all. I have a very different way of doing itineraries, and I hope that you'll stick around so that you can learn about that, and maybe it can help you and your family in the future. Until then, though, I want to ask you this. What works best for you and your family? Do you tend to be more flexible when you travel, or do you tend to be like so many others and have only specific times of year when you can vacation? Tell me all about it in a comment down below. Also, tell me what some of your wants and needs are and what some of your biggest challenges are when it comes to planning your Disney vacation. Maybe I can help you throw some things against the wall, see if they stick, or other people who are out there just like you can contribute their thoughts in the comments as well. I love that we can work together here in figuring all of this out, and we've had some great conversations in the comment section, so I hope that you'll join us down there. As always, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say, so don't hold back. I'm down there checking right now, seriously. But anyway, I hope you had fun with me today. I hope that you got some thoughts bopping around your head, and I hope that you'll join us for a future discussion. Until then, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss that discussion, because you know, you don't want it to just completely go under your radar, and hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed sitting here with me today. Anyway, I'm off. Thanks so much once again for hanging out with me. It was great, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, guys.